Uh, Good morning. I want to share you my forthcoming book, From Populismos to Neopopulismos in Latin America, published by Drowan and Littlefeld. The basic ideas of the book are how the Latin American countries share similarities despite their differences. Analogous social economic development emerged in the region during the same periods of time and disappear. And based on these similarities, a pattern of phases of development can be designed, and there are populismos, military dictatorships, democratic period, and neo-populist governments. My book offers a multidisciplinary approach, analyzing the reality of Latin America, considering the economic sphere, the political sphere, and the social sphere. And very important for me is also to show the link to the world economy in each period. In times of specialization, authors analyze in depth only one sector of the reality or specialize in one country. I think that a broad perspective is needed to overcome this specialization to offer a very holistic perspective. The method is to analyze the socioeconomic trends in each country, but also offer paradigmatic cases that were enlightened the specific manifestations of the trend in different countries. Thus, the book shows the forest and the trees. These are phases of development are populism, military dictatorships, neoliberal democratization, and the neo-populist the regimes. First, I analyzed the conditions of emergence of populism that led to this populist era, and the case studies of Argentina and Bolivia, the military dictatorships with the case study Chile, the neoliberal democratization with case studies in Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, and Peru, and the neo-populist regimes, or called also the New Left or the Pink Time. The case studies are Bolivia and Venezuela. At the end of the book, the last chapter discusses the quest of development. Populism represents a watershed in the political development of Latin America. Emerged in the mid of the 20th century when the transportation between Latin America and the old world was disrupted with the wars and the economic crisis and exposing the vulnerabilities of these export-oriented economies. So populismos enter in the political landscape, delivering substantial structural reforms. They offer an inward-oriented development based on industrialization, establish a welfare state, offering land reforms, labor laws, and establishing welfare programs. In the political sphere, it was important to extend and grant civil rights to the peasantry and to women, supported unionism and indigenous rights. In this time was very important that the state abandoned the laissez-faire of the foreign governments and developed a very strong control of the national resources. South America is really a very good example of the widespread of populism. But in Central America, populismos represent really an exception. Only Costa Rica offers a populist government under Jose Figueres. The case studies of populism in Argentina and Bolivia are really two paradigmatic cases. They are really analyzed in depth. We have in Argentina a wide, wealthy, and urbanized country with wage labor. However, in Bolivia, we have a poor country with indigenous peasants living in serfdom. Until the populist revolution of 1952, the ended the feudal era in Bolivia. We have Argentina populism is really important, industrialization, nationalization of the railroads, and offer really a strong support to unionism. The landmarks of the Bolivian revolution are the land reform, one of the most important land reform in Latin America, a granting of voting rights and nationalization of the tin mines. The military dictatorships erupted in Latin America in the 70s, according to the elites and according to the military ideology, to correct the excess of populism. So 20 years of military dictatorships were really closing parliaments in all Latin America and adjusting the economy toward the global markets by fostering the export of natural resources. They offer favorable conditions for foreign direct investments, and they also have to discipline labor. And it was the time of enormous repression in all these countries. My case study is here, Chile. Important in the book is to analyze the foreign debt of the 70s because it's also a kind of print of the foreign debt problems in Latin America. In that time, in 70s, Latin American countries started to borrow from commercial banks at low interest without conditions, but with flexible interest rates. So they started also to channelize all these loans to mega projects in infrastructure. But in 1978, oil prices rise, triggering a global recession. So the demand and prices of Latin American products fell in the world economy. So at the same time, the nominal interest rates were rise almost to 20% in some countries. So the Latin American countries started to accumulate foreign debt, one after the other, and declaring insolvency. The 80s were known because of the lost decade, because all the countries entered in recession. Insolvency crisis led to default or renegotiation of the foreign debt with two important international institutions, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, who solved the crisis of Latin American crisis, granting conditional loans to debtor countries so they could pay the commercial banks. So in the period of the democratization, these countries have to deal with the foreign debt, offering a new neoliberal agenda. New developmental model was economic policies advised by these two institutions. They became to be known as Washington Consensus. So the book analyzed this kind of implementation in the countries. It means fiscal discipline. They wanted austerity policies to dismantle the welfare countries, and also trade liberalization with very low export-import rates, taxation rates, implementation of favorable conditions for foreign direct investments. At the end, at the 90s, came also the agenda of privatization of the state-owned enterprises that profilated during the populist governments. We have case studies in Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, and Peru. and especially in that it analyzed the economies of Argentina and Bolivia, where the neoliberal agenda really led to the collapse of the economies. At the end, we have the neopopulist governments in Bolivia, in Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, Uruguay, Nicaragua, and Salvador. They promise to reverse neoliberalism. But at that time, simultaneously, a new guest come in the political landscape, and was China, that really, with high demand of primary goods, really came to a commodity boom. So all these countries, neopopulist governments, they felt in extractivism thanks to the high prices of raw materials. The book analyzed two important case studies. One is Bolivia, powered by ethnicity, and Venezuela, powered by oil. Bolivia is a good example that in that time, a commodity boom guaranteed 14 years of political and economic stability, while Venezuela, after the end of the commodity boom, felt in disarray. At the end of the chapter of the book, the chapter analyzed the quest for development. And the main question here is, why can Latin American countries, blessed with a plenty of natural resources and even capable of industrialization, cannot escape the role as producers and exporters of primary goods? A very paradigmatic case is, and paradox, is Brazil, the country that really was considered the powerhouse of Latin America. In this chapter, I discuss the industrialization based on foreign capital, foreign technology, production for the world markets, and the transfer of profits by transnational corporations that have invested in this kind of industrialization. Thank you for your attention. A bit better, no? Than before.